from 31% battery life to 8.
What a good start.
Wow.
That seems okay. Cool. So I'm not gonna have a laptop for. That's fine.
Wow, you have an outlet right over there.
I didn't bring the charger.
You did what?
Did not bring the charger.
Oh, come on.
Because it had like 40-50% battery life. It's been doing fine with that.
You should know better.
Easy, easy.
I'd like to point out we got all that recorded.
So, dear listeners, if you could please send money to us, we can buy you for just $1 a day. For just $1 a day, you too can buy a manager of stuff and things, a new laptop.
No, we do not do e-begging. That is not allowed.
E-begging?
E-begging.
E-begging. That's what he's doing right now. He's literally begging to our listeners for money. We don't do that.
Can we shorten?
No. We can do some quid pro quo. Steven, get your camera out.
Can we shorten that to egging?
Are you wearing your Crocs today?
No, we're not doing that either. No, if they would want to support us in that way, why don't they just give us some feedback and potential like merch options or things of that nature? We are not going to just straight up say, hey, send us money.
But
we don't
Stop
do that.
egging the fans.
But
we don't do that.
If they do want to send us money, I don't think we should say no.
No, we do say no because we have to give something in return. We don't take just flat, hey, just send us cash. No. If you're going to do that, we want to be supported like either through a Patreon or through like a YouTube membership or something of that nature where you're getting something additional for your money. We don't just want to put in the precedent of going, hey, we'll just freely accept it. We want to be able to provide you guys with a service or something for your donations back to us. That is how we can.
We are providing them content, though.
We are providing them content, but
so if they want to donate because they like the content, I don't see why that's a problem. And if we use the donations to put towards getting a new laptop for our manager of stuff and things and glorious editor Steven,
I'm just letting you know.
I don't think that's a problem.
All this is being cut out. Like all of this is being cut out.
Nah, it can stay.
But no, we're not taking flat donations. Like if we were doing live streaming and they're donating through that, that is one thing. But if they're just basically saying, hey,
how is that different? You're donating for content that you are receiving.
We're not gonna mention
just one is live and one is asynchronous.
We're not mentioning it in the recording.
No, and we're not just gonna start flat e-begging.
Well, they don't have anywhere to send it right now, so that's fine. Not mentioning it in the recording.
It doesn't matter. You're also not just gonna straight
up uncouth.
Yeah,
sir.
It's kind of not just uncouth. It's more of like almost taking advantage of the audience we don't have, doing it in that way.
But if we don't have an audience, how are we taking it?
Just because you think it's funny
because you're putting in a precedent. We don't do that. You of all people who have already been living in this world know that. We provide a service for free. The podcast is delivered for free. This is for them.
Yeah.
If they want to contribute funds to it, we want to add something additional for those funds. We want our supporters to know, no matter what, if you're going to support us, we are going to support you in some way, shape, or form. That is this two-way street.
So we need to set up a monthly newsletter that they can subscribe to on Substack.
Potentially. We will look into options when that becomes a thing.
I think we need to actually be making social media posts first before we start worrying about those.
I don't have the keys to it. I have provided memes.
My neck turns this way easier than it does that way.
That's fair. That's fair. I can make some more memes while we're here. I was thinking about getting a image flip subscription so that we can do without the watermark.
What's image flip?
That's how I make the memes.
The meme maker?
Yeah.
It's a memer.
Shouldn't he be the memer?
No, he'd be driving the memer. It's like a beamer, Steven. You are not the beamer. You operate the beamer.
No. I'm truck gang.
For now. Oh my God, I hate you. The fact that you literally did the T for truck gang.
Truck gang.
I hate you so much.
You're truck gang too. What are you talking about?
I know I am truck gang, but I don't do the truck gang.
Truck gang.
He's a Tacoma too. That's a double T.
Yeah, well, no, it's even better because we don't call them Tacomas. We call them tacos. That's a taco, sir.
It is a taco.
Yep. Taco gang.
Yep.
Truck? Is it truck taco gang or is it taco truck gang?
Black bean taco.
Ooh, actually, black bean taco sounds really good. Even though I just had dinner.
Have any of y'all ever had Casey's burgers?
No,
I've not.
I didn't know they
They're
had anything besides
solid.
pizza and
Yeah,
hot dogs.
and it's just the little thing in the warmer. You know,
Mhm.
it's a quarter-pound cheeseburger, just plain Jane thing. But
Okay.
it's their patties are solid for a gas station burger patty.
They have solid gas station pizza.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
yeah, their pizza is pretty good. Their food, like I'm for what it is.
I
Pretty solid.
still want a quick trip around here.
Have you been to
because-
Jiffy Trip?
I have not yet.
It kind of scratches that itch a little bit. It's
Okay.
nowhere near like the ones that we have. They're nowhere near as big as like a Quick Trip or like obviously a Buc-ee's or anything like that. But they do have a good selection. Yeah, remember it's the flour.
I've seen them, and I've debated going into one. I just haven't.
We have two where we live.
Yeah.
Like there's one at one end of town and there's one at the other end of town. And I don't understand why we have two. We do. But I popped into one and they've got a good selection. Like they're like a slightly nicer Casey's, you know?
Love's is better.
I haven't been to a Love's. I don't think.
Workman's.
You have. You just don't
Yeah.
remember. You were too young.
Workman's is great.
Workman's is fine.
I love Love's. The issue I always have with Love's though is I have never once met a cashier that enjoys their time there.
They did not love
They do not
Love's.
love Love's.
Would you enjoy being a cashier at a truck stop?
No, but every time I go to Workman's, they're always super happy and at least greet me with some form of like I at least am choosing to put on a facade. Love's does not have a facade.
Because they have Jesus.
They also have food.
I
It
thought
does smell
Love's was
be-
a donut
It does
place.
smell better in a Workman's than it does at most
Mhm.
truck stops. So I'll say that.
Again, Buc-ee's doesn't count because Buc-ee's is just a league of its own.
Well, yeah.
Buc-ee's is a convenience store.
Don't go to Pilot. At least the ones in our region, part of the world, are sketchy AF.
I'm actually trying to. I don't think I've ever been to a Pilot.
I've had to
I
out
have
of
once or
necessity,
twice.
whether it was a bathroom break or because the Loves across the interstate was closed. Like, yeah, neither. I guess the 2 or 3. Yeah, that been to 2 or 3 in the state, and pleasant. You know, the experience wasn't pleasant.
What about
To be fair, it was after hours.
What about Come and Go?
I like Come and Go.
Eh.
I'm a little annoyed that they like hyped up this whole thing. They were changing their name, and then nothing's happened. I mean, I
they
don't
did?
want them to,
The
but
memes over that were
Was
so
awesome.
good.
It was very good.
yeah.
So when do we hit the button?
The button's already been hit.
It's impressed like
The other
8 minutes
button.
ago.
Oh, well,
The other
he's talking
button.
about the other button.
Oh, when we have a decent enough transition.
Oh.
Keep talking.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about gas stations right now.
We are talking about gas stations.
How are we supposed to
It's an
transition?
important topic.
It is a very important.
Since
It's very
when has that
contentious
ever
topic.
mattered? Since when has an appropriate transition point ever mattered to us?
As soon as I started helping editing the process, it kind of
I highly,
matters.
I personally discourage smooth transitions
Why?
because
Hard left turns all day, every
embrace
day.
the chaos.
I love the chaos, but that's not chaos. That's just you.
Hit the
We're
button.
not a
I've
smooth
hit the-
train going from
Wait.
point A to point B.
No,
we are
I'm
derailing
going to
this
choose when the
sucker.
button is pressed. You don't get to say when the button is pressed. I determine when the button is pressed.
For those listening, Steven is doing the 3, 2, 1 countdown.
Good morning. I'm not your host, Matthew, joined here today by...
Nathan.
John,
Ian.
Steven.
That took a while, Steven. What you working on there?
I was just opening teams.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Nathan has the show notes pulled up, and I don't think... Does anybody else have the notes pulled up?
I have the notes pulled up, which,
We have
by the
notes?
way, we should probably introduce, this is Hostility in the Morning, Matthew, if you're going to
I
introduce
said
the
I'm not
show.
your host.
Yes, you
That's
said
not my
not your
job.
host, but you didn't at least welcome people knowing.
You
said
wanted
good
this
morning.
job.
Yeah, you
Good
asked
morning.
for this.
You asked for it. As
You literally had one job
Hey,
this
do I
time.
get to say hit the button again?
No.
Third time's the charm.
No.
Welcome to Hostility in the Evening. This is
Excuse me,
Wrong
morning.
show.
Dang
Wrong
it.
one. We haven't launched that one.
Welcome
Oh,
to
yeah.
Hostility After Dark.
Welcome to Hostility at Lunch.
Oh,
Welcome to Smoke Break.
Nathan, write that one down.
Wait, what was it?
Welcome to Hostility in the Pickup Line.
Wait, hostility smoke break?
Hostility Smoke Break. I think that could be like our like shorts. That's what we could call those.
I like that.
That's
That's a good time
I
right
like
there.
that one.
Yeah. See, when we spitball it live, it turns out decently
Sure.
okay. Oh,
Although this
goodness.
is a family-friendly show, it would be Hostility at the vape break.
No, smoke break is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Honestly, if you're going to do one or the other, one is going to take a lot longer to do, the inevitable. The other one is actually quite a bit shorter.
The smoke doesn't have to be like tobacco, nicotine, or anything like that. That could be like the server room is on fire and you're just taking a quick break.
Or you decided to smoke a brisket
Fair.
outside while
This man makes
you're
valid
waiting for
points.
the management to make a decision.
Or you use
Ooh.
the trash can fire to smoke the brisket.
Or even better, you seen those videos where people take old filing cabinets and make smokers out of
Yes.
those? That
Yeah, I like that.
that could be a good.
Dang it! And the parents just got rid of an old filing cabinet. We could have.
We could have fun with that.
Wish I'd known about this.
Or
earlier.
like we can just use my smoker on the back.
Yeah,
deck.
no, the paint flavor that's added from the filing cabinet really just makes the meat.
that's part of the seasoning process.
I thought it was
Yeah.
the lead.
Yes, all
Pick
the
one.
above. Speaking of picking one, Nathan, what are we going to be discussing today?
So a little later on, we're gonna do a roundtable regarding Microsoft, and I think we're gonna have fun with this one. Before that, though, Matthew wanted to.
Matthew has a beef.
He has a beef, but also he wants to convert us to something. What Matthew? What are we being
Not just
converted
us,
to?
everyone.
Everyone needs to learn Markdown, like how Markdown works, what the syntax is, which is really straightforward. All it is decorating your text with extra characters. And we can have a guide in the show notes. There's a couple of cheat sheets. But once you get the hang of it, so much better. It's a much more portable format, way better than trying to use like a docx or something like that. At least in my opinion. Now, if you're doing a lot of like heavy formatting and all this other stuff, there are better formats. I would argue there's better markup formats like LaTeX or something like that. Go ahead, Steven.
Okay, well, hold on. Okay, we'll get to my the hand raised in a sec. But explain to me real quick. This format that you're referring to is called
Markdown.
Markdown.
Markdown is the name of the format.
What's a markup?
Markup is a kind of language,
Okay.
right?
Does
so like
Markdown use markup?
Markdown is markup. So you're marking up text. Does that make sense? So like
No, it makes it worse.
HTML,
Okay.
hypertext media language. I don't think that
Sure.
M stands for media, but sure, we'll go with that. No, hypertext markup language. I'm sorry, I should have had that. That's a markup language, right?
Okay.
So you're marking up the text.
So Markdown is a particular style of markup formatting.
Language. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I really hate nerds sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, you should get.
Oh, dude,
like
we love
I-
our acronyms.
I just-
the
want
recursive
every
acronyms.
acronym.
Those are what I don't get.
Just
Why?
sometimes,
What do you mean
like,
the recursive
can we
acronyms? Why
not?
do you not understand those?
Like GNU.
Yeah.
GNU is not Unix. That's the recursive acronym. I don't.
Correct.
I don't really like those.
GNU?
yeah,
GNU,
same
GNU.
thing.
Sorry. Anyway, my actual point that I was going to make before I got so confused. I have an issue. I have one issue
Okay.
with Markdown. I don't like Times New Roman.
You don't have to use Times New Roman.
You can use other fonts.
Yeah, it's just that's
Why can't I use
configured
a Word
on the
document?
that's configured on the display side of things. Depending on what
Because I looked
your
at a couple of Markdown documents that you've made, and they're all
did you look
Times
at them
New
in
Roman.
SharePoint?
Teams.
That's because Teams/SharePoint they support it, but they don't really do anything besides display it. So they just display it as bog standard.
So yet again,
Yeah.
Microsoft does things terribly.
Microsoft did it very poorly. Very, very poorly.
So Microsoft uses like what's Calibri and Air like other things as the default format
everything else,
for
yeah.
everything else except for
Yeah, it
opening
wouldn't
other
be,
things.
at least in my mind, it wouldn't be very hard to apply some styling to a Markdown document, but
then
they
it would
don't.
just be a Word doc.
They don't.
Then it would just be a Word document.
Well, it's more portable than a Word document.
Define portable.
Portable as in you can take it and you can plug it into pretty much anything and at the very least be able to read it. Because the way that Markdown works, the syntax for it is pretty lightweight. So you're not, you don't have any like large tags or anything like that like you would have with HTML. It's all much smaller. So for example, with bold, instead of having to do either strong tags or there's another one that you can use. I don't think it's bold. It may just be like B tags on either side of text. You would do double asterisk.
So what you're referring to is all I'm familiar with is the document itself, the print preview, the what it actually appears to my eyes. You're referring to what the quote unquote document looks like in reality in code.
It's a simplified explanation, but yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The behind the curtain.
Yes.
Reality.
Now, for the average user, for like if you're not a developer, I would argue that most users that are just taking basic notes, like let's say you're in college, right? You're not writing papers. Even if you are writing papers, I would argue this is better. But for just your personal notes and everything like that, this is a much better format to use. So let's say that you want to have a portable format that you can use on everything. So you've got, for whatever reason, you've got a Mac. You've also got a Android phone because you're crazy and you didn't buy wholesale into the ecosystem.
Right.
You only
Okay.
partially bought into the ecosystem.
Okay, fair.
You're not going to be able to use Pages, which is what's built in.
As you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. And then let's say you're a broke college student.
You technically can use Pages. You just have to.
You shouldn't.
You just have to
ever.
manually change it to
You would have to
docx.
export it as something else. So if you don't want to have to deal with exporting as different formats to then read it on a different device, or your school uses Google Workspace instead of Office 365, so you don't have access to the Office suite, which if you do, fine, whatever. Even then, Markdown. Then you can use Markdown for your text editing stuff. There's a bunch of different editors that are very easy to spin up. Especially if you're on Apple, there's a bunch of good ones in the App Store. For Mac, I don't remember any off the top of my head. Like Visual Studio Code is obviously the one that I would go to. There's a plugin there that makes it really, really nice to edit. And then when you're viewing it, so you can be editing it and viewing it side by side. The viewer lets you change the style, so how you want to view it, and they have like 16 or 17 different built-in themes. So it makes it look pretty. It's not just Times New Roman basic text like frickin' Microsoft over here. There's also a lot of the more popular note-taking apps these days, like Nathan can vouch for Obsidian, and then Joplin if you want a purely open source version of that.
You're missing the best one. Notepad.
Yeah, you can edit it in Notepad too.
I think I'm saying just take your notes in Notepad. Why even bother with Markdown?
Because Markdown gives you, so that's a good question. If you're going to do it in Notepad, you're not going to have the additional text decoration features that you would normally have everywhere else. So like bold text, italic. I think we've talked about this before. Just that kind of stuff. So Markdown gives you the opportunity to have that. You may not be able to display it in the same place, but it's there.
I don't know if you've mentioned this before, but and obviously I know little about it, so I have never tried it. Can some of our normal plain Jane, the text editors that everyone's used to, Word, Docs, Pages, so on and so forth.
You can write Markdown in anything. Let's put it that way.
Can save.
You
I
can
can go in and
anything.
save a document to .md.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether or not it will display it as
Word is going to jumble the entire format up like by one space across the whole thing, no matter what. So I mean that's expected behavior.
So that's the big thing, is that if you're not doing any kind of And there's probably somebody that can tell me that there's easy ways to do this with Markdown. But if you're not doing any kind of crazy like page layouts, or you've got like an image here and you've got a bunch of text around it and
That was
stuff
the
like
other thing I
that,
was gonna like in a Markdown format, whether it's a dedicated Markdown editor or not. In a Markdown format,
you can
have
write
images,
Markdown in anything.
but
You can have
inserted?
images
Okay.
in the middle of the text.
So when I'm writing my kids story documentation for users, and I need to include screen caps of every single solitary step, I can do that in Markdown. Cool.
Can you do any basic image editing? So saying like if I have my screen cap in there and I need to add my little arrows and red boxes to emphasize where I want my users to interact
you would
with.
probably have
Well,
to
you
do
just
that
do that
in Paint or something
you do that
else.
in GreenShot before
You always do it in
copy
GreenShot
yeah.
beforehand, but I didn't know if Markdown would support something like that.
Oh, okay.
I've had GreenShot recommended to me, but I haven't used it yet.
Because
What?
it's weird.
I just
Hold on a minute.
GreenShot is the only way, the truth, and the life on taking screenshots
Yes.
on a computer.
Windows
period.
Shift S take the screenshot.
The open source man himself, and you have not
No.
used GreenShot.
Windows Shift S take the screenshot. And Debian, I've got
excuse
KDE
me,
as
The man
my-
speaks heresy.
So-
I have the same thing set
The
up.
man
Windows
speaks-
Shift
So
S.
Windows
Heretic.
Shift S will take the screenshot, but it doesn't allow any like proper image editing to it.
Yeah.
So say here's the great thing with GreenShot is you can just hit print screen and it'll take your screenshot for you, or you can do your designated areas.
See, I have
of
it
where you
set
want
to
it.
where print screen it just pulls up the cursor.
That's saying
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
either way,
Yeah.
and then you capture the area that you want, and
Yep.
then you have the option where you can
It
copy
automatically
it to a
pulls up the
clipboard.
options.
You can export it and save it directly as
Bless
is.
Yeah.
You can open it in its own image editor, which in the image editor you can do so many great things.
It's basically MS Paint.
Yeah.
Like
but better,
Okay.
significantly
it
better.
is, yeah. But yeah,
Because
you can do all the drawing things.
obfuscate text, you can add your
That's the
red
big one.
boxes, you can put your arrows in there, you can add text boxes on top of it to put notations and everything in it. It's very powerful
And then
and
from
doesn't
there,
take any time.
and the thing that I love about it, because this is especially with when I want, especially when I'm all I'm doing is screen capping like a conversation in Teams, so I can put it in a chat so that I can gripe about the person I'm having the conversation with.
We never do that.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, that
theoretically,
never
this
happens.
is a thing that one could
Yeah.
do. You can do again print screen, select the area, it pulls up the options. I can either go to the editor if I want to highlight, over highlight a certain area, or I can just from that menu hit copy, paste it in the chat. I don't have to save anything. Nothing has to be saved anywhere. It's just to the clipboard.
You're describing what I do with it does.
But no, but like seriously though, for like doing
Yeah.
things, especially like documentation, where I need to highlight a particular area to direct their attention to it, and then put text box like direct them to areas. But more importantly, obfuscate like because at least the way I do it, I'm not saying this is the best way all the time, but for simplicity, I'm usually like going into I'm going into a 365 tenant dashboard or a menu or something, and using it as an example. It may be in our tenant, it may be in some other completely different client's tenant or whatever. I'm just in there and I'm using that general screen as an example. So it's very important for me to obfuscate the details in there that the end user doesn't need to see. Because like that documentation I sent you a little while back is, hey, I'm thinking about this just being generic for all tasks like this, not just for the one I'm doing. Like I pulled that out of the client I was working in's tenant. And so that's why I made sure. And anything that was a username, anything that had a person's name, no matter what, like I obfuscated all that. So just being able to boom, 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 click, do stuff, and then save it however you need to save it to wherever, it's so nice.
Most of the time,
Worth a shot.
I'm Windows Shift S.
Worth a shot.
Take either a region or a window, and then just paste that into whatever
Telling you, worth a shot.
I'm doing. Worth a green shot.
It's very much worth a green shot. If you're used to only using the Windows screenshot built-in app, it is very much worth, because you can use.
Because I was a believer in the snipping tool for a long time.
Yeah, because I use both. I have both on my machines that I use every single day, and it kind of depends on what I'm capturing. If it is just something like I just need to capture like this quick thing right here, nothing has to be hidden, or I need to modify it. Yeah, Windows Shift S, grab the region, go paste it where I need it, and you're done.
Okay. Side note: what is it called? Like when you use either the snipping tool or print screen or green shot, what is the end result called? I'm trying to ask this in a way that you guys understand, and it's not.
I call it I bounce between screen grab and a screenshot.
Okay.
Screen grab.
Okay. Nathan?
Screenshot typically.
Shot.
Just a shot. Just shots.
Screenshot.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm glad that we're all kind of on the same page because it drives me up the wall when people where I work call it a snip.
Yeah.
Like call it,
I've never heard
let me
that.
grab a snip. Let me send you a snip. Here's
No.
a snip.
Because my definitions are it's like screen grab is when I'm grabbing
Freaking hate
just
it.
a section of the screen. The screenshot's the entire thing
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah. That's my pointless complaint for today. I just hate it when people refer to them as snips.
But it's the people are
But
used
it's called
to
the snipping tool. So
Yeah.
I gotta grab a snip of the screen. Anyway, so green shot. Everybody needs to give it a try.
Yes.
Yes,
That's the
very,
moral of
very
the
Well
much.
story.
worth it.
I
Also,
think I have it installed. I just never use it.
if you're on a Mac, Spotlight screenshot.
Okay.
You're welcome.
You can also get green shot for Mac.
But what I just explained is built in.
Still not as good.
What I described was built in, but that wasn't good enough for these guys.
No.
No.
Fair. That's
Can
fair.
I get green shot for Linux?
Probably.
Actually, I believe so. Yes.
Let me look it up.
because
I'm
it-
actually curious.
green
now.
shot is the way, the truth, and the light.
Does Greenshot have a command line utility?
That wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me at all. If
Well, I
it-
mean, if
it
you're
doesn't,
grabbing-
I mean,
again,
why
it's
not?
an open source project, is it not?
I believe so.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's available on Linux.
Obviously, it does. All you
All right,
open source people are
downloads.
commandy-lindy people.
You're not wrong.
Windows and Mac. That's all there is.
We can port it to Linux. It
There you
wouldn't be
go.
that hard.
Info for Windows 8 users. Hold on. Let me go to GitHub. Maybe.
Wait,
I mean,
hang on a
technically, it
minute.
should already work on Linux then, because you just use Wine. Run it with Wine.
It depends on what APIs they use.
He's
Wow.
furiously
Install
scrolling.
it via Steam. It'll be
Well,
fine.
it's a C# application. Hold on. I can actually look into this. Are they on Framework or are they on Core?
He's totally just going to compile it to Linux while
Well,
we're,
I
while we're
probably
recording.
it depends on if it's running running on Framework or Core. All right, screenshot.
So while Matthew's researching that,
Yeah. I'm gonna go with for the average user. If you're just gonna quickly make documentation, I have no problem with you using Word at all, because I honestly use Word all the time for 90% of my documentation. I've had no issues.
Word does do some weird
Oh, it does some weird things.
format. So
If you just would have paid attention in, I don't actually know what grade they teach us. When I did it, it was 10th grade. I think now they do it as low as like 7th or 6th grade. You just pay attention in your typing / Microsoft Office classes. It'll teach you in Word how to properly format your text and your pictures inside of it, so it doesn't do the let's shift the picture slightly to the left and oh my god, my text is now completely ruined.
everything is thrown off by one space. Yeah.
now I've not done hours and hours and hours and hours and hours trying to figure this out. But Word does have a super, super, super annoying quote unquote feature. I call it a bug, but it's been there for so long they probably consider it a feature. Is that when you're copy pasting information from one Word document to another,
Mhm.
even when you tell it to reformat, it doesn't always correctly reformat, and it's the stupidest thing. This is a very
What-
niche complaint.
And
I
I guess
realize
this is something I can't say that I've ever done any or very much of that at all. I've obviously seen I've seen more of like the whole jumbled reformat from converting the ye old Word 1990 whatever
doc to docx.
yeah to the current docx. And then I've seen it do. I've seen the weird thing happen. It hasn't happened very much to me, but I'm kind of confused at what you're referring to with, like, especially if you're copying word to word. Like, why are you telling it to reformat when it gets to the other end?
So
Because it should be formatted correctly. Like if you're just trying to grab a section, and let's say you have a section that's full paragraph space, bullet point list space, paragraph in indented paragraph space indented paragraph, right? Let's just say that that's the section that you're pulling out of a paper or a big Word doc. If you're copying that section out and you want it to be that way on the other side, it should just be that way on the other side.
You are correct. It should.
I've never seen it not do that. That's something that I've actually never seen.
To be fair,
because I've copied stuff out of freaking articles online into Word, and it just stays.
I'm specifically referring to Word doc to Word doc.
Well, I've done that too.
Now, to be fair, this also where this would really bite me hard was when taking an old doc file with super specific formatting and very old fonts are the ones that kind of really jump to mind.
Okay, well, you're just rolling the dice on that one. That's just we're talking about docs, doing anything in Word 2010 and up is just a roll of the dice.
You see, the irony is I've actually had
just use LibreOffice
more.
This guy gets it.
I typically, ironically,
I don't disagree with you. Actually,
have less issues with doc files than I've had with.
Why do you still have doc files?
Because I used to work for a company that
update them.
That's actually where this complaint came from. Was going through and updating.
Okay, see, this is where I understand that this is a gripe of people's. I understand that this is a prevalent issue because we're talking about corporate America, and this is the way things are. I have no sympathy for those companies, the employees of those companies, or those that suffer, because it's not your fault if you're an employee of those companies because you don't get to make the decisions. But if a company elects to not keep up with their technology and not proactively do this stuff over time and update things, that's their frickin' fault, and they suffer the consequences. I feel no sympathy whatsoever, and it's their own dadgum fault.
It's still dumb.
I don't care. No, it's not dumb. You're supposed to keep up with software. Software always has to be updated. Software will always have to be updated. There will always be these things. And if you don't do it when you're supposed to do it, this is what happens. And it's on you, and it's on the company. It's not on Microsoft.
I don't see why you wouldn't just save everything in a PDF.
Not everything is going to be backwards compatible with
PDF
everything
is the
forever.
worst
That's
format.
that is
PDF is great because
the
you save
idea
it and then you copy all of it, you dump it into your docx file, and there you go. Now
the idea of
preserved.
softwares and software formats and platforms being forever backwards compatible is the most absurd thought that any humans ever had in their brain. That is an absurd idea,
but
and
Steven,
people need to stop it.
Paper from now, when you write on it, is like it's still going to be compatible 100 years later.
No, because it's going to be decomposed in 100 years.
We have books way older than 100 years old,
because
Steven.
they've been specially preserved in museums in ideal conditions.
Mostly acid-free paper. If you use acid-free paper and you use, I forget the type of.
Getting off topic.
Okay, so to your point, I do agree that backwards compatibility can be the bane of some people's existences. I don't disagree there.
It's not that it shouldn't
counterpoint
exist.
to that.
It's not that it shouldn't exist.
Is the question is why are we updating things? Because sometimes, like in the case of, I think Amazon is like my most hated
go
in
with
this
the
case.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it thing?
Sometimes yes. For security updates, I understand that. Like we're patching code underneath that has vulnerabilities. That makes sense. But for some things, if it works, why are we changing it?
I don't know this for certain. I'm hyped.
Like the new teams.
I'm
Like the old teams didn't work. That's a terrible example.
No.
New teams.
I need a little bit longer before we get
I'll
into
let you cook.
teams.
I'll let you cook.
All teams worked in 2020.
Yes.
Prior to
It was so
2020,
good.
Teams was actually solid.
It was so good.
After that is when they broke it.
Yes, they ruined it.
Also, speaking of updates, John's update button is black again.
Gosh dang it, John.
Since when?
It's asking him to finish update.
I just
He
updated it
refuses.
like 2 weeks
He
ago.
refuses to finish the updates.
No. I
Terrible.
actually did. I patched.
Terrible.
I patched most.
But there's
of the web
another
browsers.
one, John. There's another update, and it's important to do the updates. Why are you showing me your iPad?
It's telling me the software update right now.
Anyway, so to your point, Matthew.
Ain't broke, don't fix it.
I don't know this. I'm theorizing. I'm
Mhm.
hypothesizing this. Where that probably could have held water in 2010, 2013, prior to the advent of things like Microsoft 365. because all of the apps are now so ingrained in that ecosystem of everything communicates with each other and it all runs through the Azure cloud. While something like Microsoft may seem like a thing that security updates should not be as often and big as they are, it has its piece that phones home that talks to the rest of the cloud that is more, that has the things that you don't want compromised and stuff like that. It is now an entry point. All the apps, all the different aspects of Microsoft now that are in the 365 space are entryways into the core of 365 and Azure in some way, shape, or form. So they have to be susceptible to the constant security updates.
Yeah,
No,
but
I understand those
but that's
security
not the
updates.
reason why they're updating new teams, new Outlook, and all that.
That's not why Windows 11 is getting Copilot integration.
No,
and all
no,
this
no,
other
no.
garbage.
It actually a lot of that is for Copilot. Why new teams, new Outlook exist is for Copilot integration.
So that's what
New
I'm saying.
Excel, all
The
that.
old
Yeah.
Outlook worked. Why are we replacing a
'Cause everyone has to have
desktop
Copilot.
application with a web app?
Because
Everyone has to be
because
Copilot.
every 10
okay,
years,
first of all, the web app
Microsoft,
is far superior than the
Yeah.
desktop app.
but every 10 years,
Far
I
superior.
would
Microsoft.
vehemently disagree, but again, I'm a
You can
freetard.
disagree, but every 10 years, Microsoft has to go through and completely revamp the GUI of Outlook. That's important to them. And new Outlook,
For some
that's part
reason.
of their phase. The issue that they're running into right now is the Outlook team is split. I believe it's now 3 ways where you have Outlook for the web, you have current Outlook, and you have new Outlook. And new Outlook is not even close to feature parity of current existing Outlook, and current existing Outlook is not even feature parity with Outlook on the web.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why don't you just make a new product at that point instead of trying to rebrand the old product but making it worse?
Matthew, riddle me this.
Okay.
Let's say that they do what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
And make a whole new product.
Yeah.
Do you want to be the one to explain to all the little old ladies at all the small businesses what the new thing is
They tried
and
that
why their Outlook don't work no more?
I mean, it doesn't work anymore now.
It was the Windows Mail app. That was actually supposed to be the new replacement.
Just use Thunderbird.
Oh my gosh.
No, do not use Thunderbird.
Woo!
Oh,
hot
I
take.
hate Thunderbird
Whoa.
with a passion.
But you'll take the Outlook web app over that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, dude.
100%.
Golly.
I have exclusively used the Outlook the Outlook web app since 2020. 2019 or 2020. I've never
To be fair,
I
new
was on it
Thunderbird's
for-
not bad.
Yeah, I was on it for a while.
Huh?
I'm
There's
back.
a new Thunderbird.
And
They've been slowly revamping Thunderbird, but they've
looks
kept
modern
the
now.
existing functionality.
Thunderbird just it reminds me this isn't Thunderbird's fault. This is
I have a better solution, by the
problem,
way.
but
We need to leave
Thunderbird
email behind.
Yes.
Email needs to go the way of
Thunderbird
the normie.
reminds
We
me
need to
too
leave them
much-
behind.
Thunderbird reminds me
concur.
too much of MacMail and I don't like it.
When's the last time you checked out Thunderbird?
2 years ago
Um,
for me was the last time I attempted to use it, and I hated it with a passion. Mind you, I hate Outlook with a passion as well.
Email's just garbage.
Well, I
The
really
only
is.
reason why email
You're
still
not
exists
wrong.
is because it's the only non-proprietary format that's mainstream. That's why it exists. If we had a better format, because it's a decentralized
Yeah.
way of communicating. If people had adopted like XMPP, or if Matrix really takes off, or something like that, we won't need
The
email.
Matrix. I don't want
What are
no
you talking
Matrix.
about? We got Teams. That's all you need. Just use Teams.
Teams doesn't communicate with like Slack or anything
And
like that.
figure it out, nerd. If Apple is now being forced to open up their texting application for the rest of the world to standardize it, Microsoft can do the same for Teams. Slack can do the same thing for theirs.
For sure.
Zoom could do the same thing for theirs.
We have the thing about that is we have existing formats. The problem is
No, we need a
that
new one.
decentralization is. This is like remind me to put a link in here for a XKCD comic of why are there 13 formats? We need to make one standard one. There are now 14 competing
Okay,
formats.
so there's actually there's a very simple reason for that, in that all of those other it's really not the format. It is it's the owner of the application that is used to view the data. View the file.
Email exists because
Well,
it is
and
a
that-
decentralized way of communicating. So
Because-
multiple companies can communicate
Yes,
with
but
another.
that's my point.
Multiple
Where,
people can communicate with one another, and they have completely different platforms.
but my point though is that it actually kind of to your
It's
point as
using
well.
the same protocol. That's the thing.
But it's a decentralized way of so like company A, they have for all of their internal stuff they have Teams. Company B has Slack, right? Slack and Teams don't communicate with each other. So how do these companies communicate? Email or phone calls, but email is like the asynchronous way of doing that.
No, they just shout across the parking lot. It's really easy.
So just imagine that the arms that I'm holding out are like opposite ends of the world.
Matthew is holding out both of his arms.
And you're also saying
In
that
a loving embrace.
but you're also assuming that people communicate. Like you have worked in how many companies and how many times have you ran into communication issues?
Every day.
There you go.
Every day. Internal, it's
Literally
not
all
so
of
bad.
them.
At least where I'm at currently. Internal, it's not so
To be
bad.
fair,
External,
I
it's
feel
just-
we should go
yeah.
back to the old sacrificial days and just smoke signals, but we'll modernize and we'll just go ahead and take the old PoE switch and overclock in neutral ports, and we'll just use that for the smoke signals for now.
email needs to go the way of the
magic
devil.
smoke signals.
Magic smoke.
Okay.
We gotta let the magic smoke out, Steven. It is time.
Ian, how do you feel about email?
It can die.
There we go.
A slow,
We have our
painful
majority.
death.
We have our majority.
So what? I guess the next question
The
is what do we
council's
replace
spoken.
email with?
It's gonna be back to like,
Pigeons.
the old IMing days. It's just gonna be potentially like chat boards and direct messages, things of that nature.
But how do you
It's-
directly message somebody? That's the question.
You're gonna have to make a protocol similar to what we have. for the-
XMPP already exists.
Well, then we can integrate with that, or
Some nerd is going to be like,
or-
well, this is why it doesn't
or
does stuff.
I would actually say let's go more of the route of what's already been happening on the SMS side, and let's just use one of the protocols based off that platform. That way, you can have an open-based chat between.
No, because then you still have SMS and MMS.
Just combine the two.
RCS.
Okay.
Yeah, RCS.
That's a great example of there are a bajillion different competing formats. There's SMS, SMS, MMS, messages, whatever their format is called, RCS.
But RCS is.
But those
quickly-
are also other good examples
Yeah,
of
but RCS is what's quickly become the modern standard for all that.
decentralized
SMS
formats.
and MMS are actually legacy at this point.
I think we should normalize messenger owls.
Ooh.
I would be okay with that. Like if I had like my own,
Yeah,
owl
like,
just chilling
like
in
a
my
pet owl,
office.
and they could send. And I mean,
I mean, we already have a lot of wildlife. What's another?
they'd be anonymous.
Kate actually was talking about wanting to get an owl.
Of
Why does
course.
that not surprise me?
We're not going down that actual rabbit hole at this point.
They're predator birds though, so we have to be careful.
How much poultry do you currently have? How many poultry
we're
animals?
down to
Notice he said.
17 quail.
Notice he said down to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, a couple of them. A couple of them died off before they moved outside
How'd they
when we were
taste?
breeding them. The last batch that we ate, so good. If you can imagine, it's like a if you haven't had quail before, it's like a whole chicken, but the size of a drumstick.
Interesting.
It's kind of weird. This is the first time you
Sounds
have
like
it.
a lot of bones to deal with.
A lot of bones to deal with, but the breast meat, like at least the ones that we had, like they were kind of chunky birds. So yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
I like how he just described a bird the size of a drumstick. It's
The size of a
bird.
baseball.
Big drumstick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thick drumstick.
I have seen turkey legs bigger than those birds.
Well, there's like turkey heads bigger than those birds.
Anyway,
So
Where
while,
were we? So we went from
standardized messaging platform.
while we're bashing
Yeah.
on Microsoft, though, can we also talk about
is your Teams in dark mode?
not just the
Always.
well, yeah,
was
my phone
was
is.
it on your? Is it on your phone?
Yeah.
The dark mode.
Yeah, it actually stays on my phone.
The Microsoft phone apps right now are actually typically more reliable than the desktop ones are.
That's strangely, you're not terribly.
I
you're not
actually
totally
find
wrong.
that the at least on my work phone, the Teams app is significantly slower than the desktop app.
That well, it's because it's an iPhone. It's
I'm aware.
an old iPhone at this point.
No, we just recently upgraded those.
No, it's not an old one. It's
Wait, are
current
we
gen.
on? Oh, that's right. No, we're on 13. Are we 12s?
13s.
13s. Okay.
They only just launched the 15, so
Oh, okay.
It's It's not that old.
I'm not used. My last one was an 8. So, or no, last
No,
one was an
10s.
XR.
Yeah, they were.
it was an XR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty decent gap between that and the 13.
The phone that I was sent for my current contract, which I'm hopping back on with a large company, is an iPhone 8.
nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oldie
Does it
but
hold a charge
goodie.
longer than 10 minutes?
30.
nice. That's all you need for your MFA.
I literally leave it on the charger.
Oh God, that's terrible.
Well, that's how my old phone eventually got it. Just always stayed plugged in.
So while we have plenty of complaints about how terribly Microsoft does things, can we talk about how terribly people use Microsoft products?
Go for it.
So just to put this in here, because I know I preface this off air, but to preface it on air, the best way to use a Microsoft product is to not use it at all.
Yes, Matthew.
Brought to you by your
know.
local freetard.
But there are reasons why the Microsoft application is pretty much the gold standard in corporate America.
They were
It's
there.
cheaper.
Because of-
actually, price was not really the reason. It was more well, Microsoft also invested a bunch of money to be the one, standardized OS, two, the standardized software platform on that OS for people to utilize, and three, also built one of the most, I'm not gonna say user friendly, but all encompassing ecosystem that you can basically have your PC, your applications, your data all in one platform that Google was attempting to do and only kind of partially succeeded on some of those merits.
Yeah, that's something that I'll say just real quick, and this is more just to this general topic of Microsoft and usage. And while there's other platforms, like I'll say like Google, for instance, Google Docs, they Docs, Sheets, and whatever their PowerPoint competitor is.
Slides.
Thank
Yeah.
you. They're fine as far as
They're usable.
apps go. Yeah, they're usable.
Their best feature is their collaboration ability.
Yeah.
That is the only thing that they have over.
But as far as a business environment, your standard humdrum average business environment, and I would imagine that this would extrapolate to a larger corporate environment as well. There is something to be said for like local apps are still necessary, as much as things have companies and people have tried to push away from local apps and go towards cloud-based cloud versions of those types of applications, and the integrations in the cloud, like all that stuff. And I have no issue with cloud like again, I think the Google ones are fine. They are watered down compared to like the Office apps, but they have all the necessities that you can do all the things most people need to do.
You can also open Office apps or Office documents in them too.
Yeah. But that's all good and fine. And honestly, the online versions of the Office apps are fine. But right now in this day and age, local apps are still a must in the workplace. That's just a fact of life, whether anyone likes it or not. And the fact that those other platforms don't have local apps, I believe, is what holds them back as far as taking away market share from Microsoft.
Right, but to kind of go back to your original question of how users completely butcher and mess up and absolutely
it's just they do it wrong all the time.
Do it wrong, yeah.
So one example I will give right off the bat pertains to storage.
Everything goes in the downloads folder.
And this isn't even local storage. I'm talking about cloud storage here.
Everything goes in the downloads folder on your OneDrive.
You should make sure and add your downloads folder to your OneDrive and make sure you put everything in
Mike, that is one of the first things I block in the OneDrive policies is you're not. So I only allow you to save files in 3 locations: your desktop, your documents, and your pictures. You get nothing else.
Heaven forbid some doofus figures out how to make a symlink between the documents and the downloads folder.
So that's one thing. That's
that
one
would
issue.
be really funny.
I could
a
be
whole
so much
nother
more mean, I
layer.
could just block like specific extensions and say you're just not allowed to have it on your
A
computer.
whole
No more
nother-
PDFs.
A whole nother
That's the
layer
thing.
of
No more
nonsense.
PDFs.
Oh my God, you'd break the world.
I would. That is my.
But a whole nother layer of
I'm here to
nonsense
watch the world
is not just where the documents are stored, but how the documents are shared, and more specifically, who they're
sending
shared
it
to
via email.
Well,
that would have been an
and that's also another issue.
That would have been an improvement. for what he's
So
discussing.
the one way that you don't use OneDrive is in a company have one person whose OneDrive contains all, okay, I didn't say all, 90% of all of the company's data, all of their just all of the documents created, store them in one person's OneDrive. and then share them out to everybody through that OneDrive through share links.
Oh, there's no problems with this.
and that's how you
There's no problems with this. This
collaborate on
person's
and
never
store their
gonna
data.
leave.
Yeah, no,
It's just going to
Not at all,
magically,
no.
these files are just going to be magically available.
sure.
Please tell me that this person got compromised.
No, we did a SharePoint. This was our first, at least in our region, this was our first SharePoint project.
See, this is a
Uh,
good example of where a decentralized solution would have been great. So let's say one person has a desktop with a terabyte hard drive,
Sure.
right? They've got their like SSD, but then a terabyte hard drive, and they have a ton of files on the terabyte hard drive.
Sure.
Now they also piecemeal out different files and documents and folders
yeah,
and
because
stuff like that.
you could
to
do a
other
network
people.
share and do that. Yeah.
They could do a network share, or if they had something set up like SyncThing, SyncThing's the one that I use, or something like that that shares files between stuff. What it does is it keeps files synced between different devices, assuming they're all on the same network.
What if the hard drive dies?
The hard drive dies, those files are saved on the other. So it's kind of like OneDrive, how you can keep offline. Yeah.
No,
Yes.
this sounds horrible.
Why?
Because if the hard drive dies and the root data is gone, then how do you keep track of versioning between the other synced files?
The SyncThing has a thing in the background that does that.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
I don't.
So
trust
and
technology
it's
that
also
much.
it's that if the original hard drive, everybody was syncing to it, but nobody was syncing to each other, then yes, you would run into file versioning issues. But if everybody's syncing to each other, and this is just like
this
the
is like
starting
a,
point,
like a mesh syncing of.
Yeah.
You should never do this.
I
You
don't
should
like this.
Never,
This
never
sounds
do this.
horrible.
help me understand why this would be a worse solution than having one person's OneDrive
Because
folder.
Well, no. I mean, it's still
no,
a
they're
bad
both, they're both
situation.
bad, but
yeah.
one at least is centralized. The data is hosted in one place, whereas instead of you have one host who then syncs to this host, which syncs to another host, which syncs to another host, and now you're gonna run into a problem is whenever you run into your first sync error,
yeah.
where do you go to resolve that error?
So that's where
source Excel file.
SyncThing does an amazing job of showing you. Here's the
I would like
files.
to see this amazing job.
I
Here's
don't
the-
trust
I'll have to do
any
a
of it.
demonstration. So that's how I sync my notes between devices.
How many
right?
devices?
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Why are you syncing them between that many devices?
6 because I want all my notes available,
Yeah,
and I
but
don't want
why-
to use OneDrive.
Why wouldn't you
So
just
instead of using OneDrive
then
or
put
something
it
like
on
that,
an NAS? Save it to an
I
NAS.
don't have
Spend
an NAS.
thousands of dollars on infrastructure. What's
Yeah,
wrong
you-
with you?
$200 for a NAS because you don't have. I guarantee you do not have that much data. If
Not
you're syncing
yet.
between,
Okay, all right. Let me. All right,
Not-
hold
but
on.
the NAS is expandable.
You all right? So in this,
No.
My devices are expandable.
This
But now you're
Personal-
having to manage 5
they?
devices instead of
Yeah.
one.
are they? Is your phone expandable?
I'm not having to manage other devices. See, that's the thing. I set it up. It's a set and forget kind of thing.
Is your phone expandable?
For the most part, yeah. I don't have an SD card in
How?
it, and I haven't used all the storage yet.
Okay, that's not expandable. Oh, but
Yeah.
so it can accept an SD card.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Your laptop's expandable.
Yes.
You don't have soldered chips on your laptop.
No, actually, I can up
Take
the
it apart
SSD on
right
here.
now.
I get
Right
the
now.
flexibility of what
live.
you're attempting to build, but this is an infrastructure nightmare, is what you are
Well,
describing.
for
There-
you,
there
but you
are-
haven't used it before.
No, but I have used.
See, having a centralized backup that makes sense,
Not-
but
not a
relying
back-
purely on the centralized server, there's pros and
Yes.
cons both ways.
No, that's the point of the centralized server, to serve the data. That's what it's there for. You are using multiple machines to fulfill the exact same process and adding unnecessary complexity to it just because you want that convenience
Well,
of
how
having
is
your
it-
data everywhere.
How
you
is it
can do
unnecessary
that
complexity?
because now you're having to, every single device you want to use is now having to resync that data to it to keep it succinct within each other.
What
Well, and
happens?
see, that's
what
the
happens
magic
when
of
you're
syncing.
using your phone?
Yes.
And let's say you're editing, said document that you have on all 6 of these devices,
Yes.
and you happen to be using your phone to do it at the moment, and it's plugging away, happily syncing, la 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 la, because you're out and about and you're on cell signal.
Yeah.
And you drop cell signal for a significant period of time, not just a temporary drop where
Yeah.
it would desync and sync back up, but unbeknownst to you, you're just not paying attention. And you lose cell signal altogether for a period of an hour or two, and you've made an hour or two worth of changes. How reliable is it at picking back up network and saying, "Oh dear God, this thing has like half a gig worth of changes made. I've got to sync this now to 6 other devices. 3 of those other devices aren't turned on, so they're not going to sync
so when
for
they
another
turn
3
on, then they
days.
pick up
when
the
you,
changes.
But you see what I'm saying?
But
Yeah.
why?
Like how robust is this?
What
that
is
it's
the
gonna actually
purpose
do
of
that?
this level of complexity?
Because this is free. I don't have to
That
set up a
doesn't
NAS.
matter. Just because it's free does not mean it's good. You're not there are much better options. You have a Windows PC right now. You have a Linux PC right now, right?
Yeah.
Then just turn on a file share, put the files on that, and then you access from your other devices that file share. Now your
But this
data
is-
stays centralized in one place to sync to all devices without having
you
to
have to-
communicate
you have
with
to-
every other single device. And
No, no,
you
no,
have a
that's the
centralized
thing.
backup
That's
solution
the
if
thing.
you ever
There's
want to
not a-
back it up.
no,
and
backup.
you can sync it to the cloud if you wanted to. You are doing an asinine, stupid way just because it's a free product and you're trying to see
No,
how far
okay.
you can stretch
So
it.
if you back up a little bit, this isn't an active connection between all 6 devices all the time. So that's part of it, is that it will pick up, like what we were talking about just a second ago, before John launched in. It will pick back up. So
This
like right
is
now,
so asinine.
right
It's
now
still
I have
dumb.
my phone and my laptop are both on John's Wi-Fi. So if I open up my
Mhm.
notes and I start making changes and stuff like that, it'll
Sure.
be
Sync
it'll
between
be
the two.
sync
that-
between
yeah.
the two.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
And then when I go home and I hit the home network, then my phone and my laptop will sync back up with my home desktop.
Mhm.
And then whatever other devices that I have there. It just happens.
You're also using a lot. Wow, you're using a lot of data here to.
Yeah,
Keep
and
this
These are
sync
text
up.
files. This is
but let me
kilobytes that
ask
we're
you this
measuring
question:
in.
where is the data then actually being stored?
On each
Ounces equal
device.
pounds, pounds equal pain,
Between
sir.
each device, right? But now your data is spread between how many devices? How do you keep track of it? How do you know that when you created that one document, right,
Yeah.
on that machine,
Yeah.
and now you go to another machine and make another document, now they sync back and forth with each other, right?
Yeah.
But now you have 2 files across 2 different machines with 2 separate copies of it, and now you want to try and access all that data again, right? Now it's
Yeah.
having to resync back and forth. There's no actual,
When you make changes.
but there's no actual true host. There is no host.
Why does there have to be a host?
Because the host.
Because this is the beauty of it, is that there's also built-in redundancy.
There,
So
no,
if
it's
one of my
not.
devices fails, I still have all of my stuff on everything else.
You say that till it syncs and it goes, okay, but this
Let me,
data was deleted, now it's gone. And
let
now
me
it
ask
syncs
this
to
as
no
well.
So
rest
if
of
you
it.
have it set up to where it doesn't do backups, then that's one thing. But I have it set up to where it does what's called simple file versioning, where it will take 5 backups of each file when it makes changes.
This is,
So you can easily
my
roll
goodness.
back as well. And again, this is text files. This isn't like massive media
I
files.
un-
we're
I
we're
understand-
measuring in
Let me
I
ask
kilobytes.
this 'cause I
understand
didn't
what
catch,
you are saying
I didn't
here.
catch this detail that like in your
Steven.
description.
Yeah.
So is this for this to function?
Yes.
Um,
I could be doing a
is
terrible
this,
job explaining this.
do
too.
you have to have a client installed on every device? Like,
Yes.
is it's a client that is phoning home to a server that the cloud server is what's keeping track of all this
No.
happening?
Each device is responsible for keeping
but-
track of.
Okay, but
Yeah.
How does
There
it,
is
communicate-
no-
has to
how does
have
it
a
communicate
medium.
with each other?
the device has to have a medium
Over the network.
in
So they
order
both
to-
have to be connected to the
yes.
same
Okay,
network.
how
So-
does each client then talk with another client?
Are the independent clients talking to each other?
Yes.
Did you read all the white papers?
Is
This
it
is
pe-
called decentralized for a reason.
Okay.
Have you
so-
studied the white papers?
I didn't have to.
Can you
I
repeat
was
the
able to
white
set
papers
this
hold
up
verbatim?
and
hold
call
on,
it
hold
good.
on, hold on. I can see where this can be useful. However, the way you are storing
can see
data
a
and you
nightmare
are
scenario as well.
saying this is redundant is not true redundancy. It's
How
not.
is it not true redundancy?
Because there's no resiliency built into any of it. Yes,
How is there
it's-
no resiliency?
Because just because you sync between multiple devices, this one file, right?
Sure.
That's not redundant. That is copying.
How is
There-
that not redundancy?
Because
There's 6 copies of this available.
How-
I have
how do
I
you-
have safeguards in place so
how
that it's
do you
not going to
recover
get
the data?
overwritten.
How do you recover the data? If you delete something, how do you recover it?
If all 6 devices die right now, what happens?
How do you get your
Well,
data
then
back?
everything's gone. If all 6 devices all died at the same time, then that's an act of God. That's awful.
That's not the way we look at it in the IT world.
Yeah, and that's fair
because-
to have an offsite backup that's periodically taken. I get that.
Because if you were using Sync It right now, say if you right now
Sync
had
thing.
Sync Thing, whatever. If you're using
If
Sync
you're gonna
Thing,
bash it, at least get it right.
I will bash it and I will get it right. It's fine. If you're going to use Sync Thing, if you did it this way, if said you had a desktop at home right now, you stored all your data on, and then you took another desktop, you got permission at work, and you wanted your data to stay versioned with each other between both theirs and have that act as a backup, sure. I would accept that saying Sync Thing can fulfill that functionality for free and have some basic redundancy built into your RAID array and your backup solutions between both, and have one obviously offsite and potentially sync to the cloud that you could do. Get
Nathan's
it.
raising his
No
hand.
problem between that. The way you are describing this right now is the exact same thing of someone saying, I have a copy of my computer, I have it copied on a thumb drive, I have it copied on a portable hard drive, I have it copied on a hard drive that's sitting in the safe. Sure, they may all stay up to date and synced with each other, and sure, that data technically right now is still easily accessible. But if your house burns down, if whatever reason you purge a file in your sync thing right now, you don't actually have a true proper way to recover it. If that data then gets synced between all your machines saying, okay, it noticed a change, you deleted and purged the file, right?
Yeah, if
I'm
anything,
also-
it's actually more
I'm-
annoying to delete stuff than it is
Based
to
on just
create stuff.
the way you describe that this works, I'm not convinced that this is a true peer-to-peer, client-to-client communication. Because this sounds a lot
depends
like
on how you have it set
hold
up.
on. This sounds a lot like the way some of the other things that we use in like networks and stuff work, where yes, you install a client on each one, and technically, yes, those clients are talking to each other,
Yeah.
but they are talking via a facilitated communication from a central server.
There is no central
That's
server.
I
Nathan has
I'm
a
not
question, and then I
convinced
can
of that.
add some
What?
context here.
I'm going to ask a question.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to the question.
Okay.
I don't
Usually
know
what it means to ask a question.
well, there are certain people around here that assume you know the answer when you ask the question.
Okay, touche.
I'm asking the question, and I also don't know any of the underlying technology that I'm about to ask
Okay.
about. What is being described here, and also I've been scrolling through some of the sync thing stuff. My understanding of what Matthew's been describing is at least very similar to how like Bitcoin works. I don't in the sense of like Bitcoin, to my knowledge, I could be completely wrong. There's no centralized Bitcoin server. Bitcoin exists across multiple different devices globally. Now, this is a
don't know if you could
ridiculous
make
level of hyper oversimplification. I
I
understand
don't know
that.
if you could make a direct correlation to this in blockchain. I don't
Because, well, the reason I say this is because this is referenced. There's
Their
a lot of
protocol is called the
blockchain.
Block Exchange Protocol.
There's a lot of blockchain references in the
which
sync,
I will
sync
admit
thing
I haven't
stuff.
read through the white paper, but I didn't need to get this set up. So I can read through the white
Well,
paper
getting it
and
set
like
up and
provide a
understanding the
presentation.
inner
Getting
workings
it
is
set up
different
and saying
things.
that this
So,
is a good solution are two
The
completely
way
different things.
that the setup process works is that you take let's say for like right now I have my phone and my laptop. I installed SyncThing on my Android phone.
Sure.
I also installed SyncThing on my Debian installation here on my laptop. I
Yes,
think
you're
it's on
installing a
Windows too.
client.
Yeah, so I'm installing two clients.
Yes.
So now I have to pair those clients. Okay.
Okay.
So like my phone is paired to my laptop.
What does the process look like to pair the clients?
We've learned that doing visual demonstrations on an audio
Well,
platform is
okay,
terrible.
general-
But what you do is that
description.
there's a couple different ways you can take your device's generated ID and plug that in, and it's
Okay.
a very long ID, so it's kind of annoying.
So it's
or
a unique identifier.
I can
that's
do
fair.
there's a unique identifier, or I can take my phone. Typically, what I do is take my phone, scan the QR code that's up on the device, and then use my phone to
So
kind
the
of
most
pair
secure
between
of
stuff.
connections.
This entire idea of decentralizing your data in this manner is complete asinine to me.
You live in the cloud too much.
John doesn't
This
like
You need
isn't
to
that.
get your head out of the cloud.
I don't. This is
Okay,
how
so let me
this is
continue.
how I
Let me
have my
continue.
own data center stood up in house. You centralize the data.
Well, where's your offsite
Again,
backup?
Why in the world
that
wouldn't
is
you
in the
just spend
cloud. My
thousands of
offsite
dollars and
backup is-
create your own infrastructure? Jeez.
You
Yeah.
don't even have to. It's been proven numerous times. You don't have to have tons of money to have a NAS at home. They're dirt cheap. You have a spare workstation at home that already can serve this information that you
So-
can easily back up offsite using SyncThing.
So for SyncThing, like I have two devices, right? That's the easiest way to understand it. So
Yes.
now I then select what files I want to go.
Yes.
So typically I'll select a folder. So
Makes
like in this
sense.
case, I have my notes folder, and it will sync between the two devices.
Okay.
That's two devices. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in my list here, 8 different devices. Mostly because there's each device typically has a Linux installation and a Windows installation, and I have it set up on all those.
Okay.
So it'll just pick up and sync. Where the magic really comes in is if you have one device that can act as kind of a bridge between the rest of them. It's not centralized because all the devices can independently talk to each other if you have it set up that way. So right now, if my phone was turned off and I went home, my laptop would then pick up with my desktop and they would sync together
Okay.
without the phone. However, most of the time my phone is turned on and syncing, and it acts as the bridge between everything. So my phone is always with me. It's always with whatever device I'm interacting with. And typically they're on the same network, so it can pick it up.
This is literally complexity for convenience. That is all this is.
It's complexity on the back end, but the way that they have it set up, Nathan would like this. The way that they have it set up is the user side of things is very user friendly. You don't
That's
have
fine.
to understand all this.
That is fine.
You just
but
have to have it paired.
The way that you're building this out is complexity for convenience when you can easily pare this down to the
by spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You don't have to
to
spend
get all the storage and everything.
You don't.
And there's also the
You-
part of what
you-
happens. What happens if I want to have all of my device, all of my notes stored on my devices? I don't want to have stuff in the cloud.
You don't
What is your
have to.
solution for that?
You VPN. That's been a thing for decades.
I regret mentioning OneDrive.
As I said, the easiest solution to using my Windows products correctly is to not use Windows at all.
No, because look at what you're having to do just to avoid using a Windows product, which I'm not even pushing a Windows product right now.
What you're describing, it's the same thing if I wanted to use OneDrive. I would still have to install OneDrive on whatever device I have.
Yes, but
assuming it's not pre-installed,
that's
I would
not
have to sign
but
in,
that's not
and then I would have to
decentralized.
select
That is
which
still
ones that I want, what files I want downloaded.
But it's
the
not-
same principle. The difference
It's
is that
not
my
the
files
same
are stored on
principle.
my device instead of being stored on somebody else's device somewhere.
And that's not even what I'm describing, you numbnuts.
You're describing a home lab, but then you keep mentioning having redundancy in the cloud. Whose cloud?
Choose one.
I
You
don't
can
want
make your
my
own.
I
There
don't
are
want
other
my files in the
options.
cloud.
Then go to an off-site. You have a parent's house. You have other family members. You can put these things anywhere. You can go and choose a cloud if
But
you want to.
that's how is that,
That-
less complex than what I'm
No,
doing
that's not
right
in a
now?
different region. You got to go different region.
So, okay.
You can if you want. Matthew, all I'm saying is here, everything that you're currently doing right now and saying this is a good, reliable
Goes
solution.
against every fiber of his being, and he hates it.
Of everything that I've ever come to known of how to build these types of infrastructures and doing it internally and testing this. Because again, I do this right now with free software known as TrueNAS Scale, where I have multiple NASs.
But that's a centralized
Yes.
device.
Yes.
I don't need a centralized device.
You actually, of all people, what you're doing right now are the heaviest of people I know. You should have a
I
centralized
don't need a
device for
centralized
this.
device for my notes. Now, I would argue that having a centralized device for something like for source control, to have like a Git server set up, that makes sense.
Clarifying point. What for you personally?
Yes.
Define note.
Note as in text files, as in like
Define note. What is a note to you? What is it?
Text.
What are the what content? What are the contents of
Text.
these notes?
literally
What are
just
you
text.
typing in
What
there?
are you putting-
What content
why are you
of text?
making it?
What
What
is
is
the
it?
subject matter?
Is it a grocery list?
subject!
Is it notes for work? Is it what is
Yes.
it? What are they?
All the things.
Are
All the things.
we
the
don't have
texts that I
time to
write
go
now.
into this, so
Jesus.
we're going to get into this in part 2. I've been your host, John, joined here today by...
Matthew.
Steven.
Ian.
This is a hostile morning. Have a good one.
Have a hostile morning.
I say it how I want.
The morning's already hot. Oh, right. Thanks for joining us on the Hostility in the Morning podcast. If you stayed this long and like what you heard, leave a comment or hit us up at Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or at info@hostilityinthemorning.com. We upload every other Tuesday real early on Substack, Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. If you want a one-stop shop, you can find everything at hostilityinthemorning.com. Have a hostile morning, everybody.